Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. It's hour number 2. Joining us, I want to welcome back to the program. We have Senator Linda Collins-Smith with us. She represents District 19. Senator Linda Collins-Smith, thanks for being back on.
Hey, Paul. I'm proud to be on with you guys today.
Absolutely. So glad that you're here. I wanted to have you on to discuss a couple of things. Most importantly, and we'll get to this here in a minute, but I just want to talk about maybe the tough bills that you have, maybe some of the tougher votes that you've had to make in the last session. But before we maybe get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the Senate Judiciary Committee. This last session, you were the vice chair. And I just would wonder, were there any bills, because I know there were some problems with meeting with that committee later in session. Were there any bills that you really wanted to see go through that Senate Judiciary Committee process, but they weren't allowed to?
To go through, that didn't come out of the committee.
Yeah, that didn't even get heard. Were there any of them that didn't even get heard,
There were plenty that didn't get heard. It was absolutely frustrating for anyone, of course, that came that had a bill. There were some bills that asked to be, some legislators I know for sure, one that I talked to in the Senate that said he asked to have his bills moved, that he was going to have, asked to have them moved because if he had to, because he couldn't get them heard. What he finally did, whether they actually came to our committee and came out or not, or whether he had to take them through another committee, who knows if they all got heard or not. I know there were people sat there. It was frustrating for them and for all of us because the chair, of course, was Senator Hutchinson, and he would cut off the meeting early, or he would say, we're ending the committee meeting, or we'll meet this afternoon again, and then he would not meet. And part of that was because there was a bill that he absolutely did not want heard, and he did not want to, the days that he thought that the majority of the votes were present to pass the public safety bill, was when he thought the votes were there, he was not going to hold a judiciary meeting.
Yes,
and judiciary has a lot of bills, and so we need to meet a lot. And, people couldn't have their bills. They would sit there for, the longest, sometimes for hours, or they'd come back and they would sit with hopes to have their bill heard. And I said, Senator, these people need to have their bills heard. And he said, we'll hear them, later today. We'll come back. Or we'll hear them in the morning. They can hear them tomorrow. And then that would not happen. So we really lost a lot of time, and I can understand their frustration because it wasn't just us that was, those that were sitting there on the committee. It was people that needed to have their bills heard. So there were many did not get to be heard.
Yeah.
And we actually signed out some bills at the end of session because those people did not have the opportunity to have their bills heard. And we know that several of them, many were not even controversial. They just did not have the opportunity to come before that committee because we were not there. We were not present.
And what I feel, what was happening, you mentioned the public safety bill, which the left would call, it's a bathroom bill. The media would have called it a bathroom bill. And so you have the governor's nephew, Jeremy Hutchins, in the chair. and I would just say what this was, because the governor didn't want this. But what I feel like happens when you try to thwart the will of the people, and that's what he was trying to do, trying to manipulate the committee and the power that a chair of a committee has. You're scared of the vote that the will of the people for the people that represent that district are going to get the bill out of the committee if you let it run. But in the process of trying to do this legislative sleight of hand, I'm not going to meet now because the consequences of that are bills that are non-controversial. What you're saying is aren't even heard. So maybe the routine business of the people of Arkansas is hurt, all because they don't want something that they perceive to be as politically risky. But, of course, those senators who would have voted for it, they were just voting what their people wanted them to do. Is that about right?
Exactly. I mean, and the conscience, because truly that bill is not, and they would mislabeled that bill. And I was asked, why do you think that part of the reasons that there were problems with this bill? And I said, partly because the media calls it something it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not another state's bill. There's no comparison. It's mislabeled. And I said that's to help, kill the bill or to get some bad press. And I said, you guys do that, and that's what you do. But I said it's not even close to North Carolina's bill. And I said it's also a public safety. I mean, it's a safety bill to protect our children and to protect our women. And I said, when you look at this and then you get the people to the table that want this bill, when those people come and talk about, and you talk to those people, they want the bill and they want it. And I wish that the governor had talked to me about this bill, because if he went out into the district and he talked to the parents and he talked to the pastors, and because that families talk to the pastors, and if he talked to, because I could work with the governor with this, I wish he would, because this is about the safety of our children. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Exactly right. And, of course, what they're saying is this is not a problem that exists in Arkansas, so why deal with it now? And first of all, that's not true. But second of all, I mean, the wisdom of, well, let's wait till a problem exists before we try to do the right thing is really frustrating to me. I wanted to remind our listeners of that. I wanted to remind our listeners of what a champion of conservatism you were. And this isn't really even along ideological lines. What we were just talking about is more just, hey, shouldn't government work in such a way to where we're not afraid of the vote of legislators that is going to reflect ultimately the will of the people who sent them there? That's not something we should be afraid of, and yet they tried to control and manipulate the process, and so I wanted to reiterate that. Folks, we're talking with Senator Linda Collins-Smith. She's from District 19. Hey, Linda, tell us real quick for some of our listeners out there, District 19, kind of summarize the geographic area.
Oh, thank you, Paul. It's a beautiful, wonderful district, but it's a long ways from the state capital. So it's at the northeast corner of the state, central northeast, and so it's I actually live in Randolph County, and it goes all the way over to Independence. I have all of Independence County. I have all of Izard County and all of Sharp, and I have about a half to, a third of Fulton, and I have about a half and a third of Randolph County. So it's I have 5 rivers, and we have lots of water in my district, but I have 5 in Randolph where all the flooding, which has kept me quite busy, and after everyone's safe, we're coming along, and recovery's going along well now. It's going to be a long time on recovery, but that's moving forward now. So everybody's breathing deep, and sighs of relief on all that. It's coming along well. And then all the way over to the White River, and just beautiful hills in Ozark and Delta. So I have it all.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a big district, and I certainly, I appreciate all that you're doing for it. I know the people do too. I want to talk about a couple of bills, okay, because I mentioned some tough votes, and I want you to tell me about this. So here's SB 726. This was a bill that you sponsored, okay, and it was to amend Arkansas law concerning prohibited appearances by legislators and to amend a portion of the law resulting from initiated Act 1 of 1988. What was this designed to do?
Okay. On 726, well, that was an important bill to me, because when you're talking about ethics and you're talking about, there seems to be a gap, and we want to talk about some problems we've seen with legislators, and this is an area that I think needs to be clarified. And I think that the law, I think if it were pushed, or if a case if it were challenged, I think that we would find that guilt would be found, because I don't think you can take money for a vote. Okay? I think that's clear.
So that's what this bill was designed to try to stop. Maybe a practice where they say, well, I'm not taking money for a vote. So kind of make that more practical for us. What are we talking about here?
All right, let's say that an attorney's hired by a client, and they go to our state capitol and they work on a bill that benefits that client, and they get a bill passed, they get us to vote for it, and they've actually been paid. If I do that and I take money, guess what? I can't do that. And I can't be a lobbyist and take money. And I can't be, if you're a consultant, are you truly a consultant or are you a lobbyist? What's that definition? So we need to make sure that we're letting the legislators know, that was intentionally letting legislators know that although that is not written into the ethics laws, it's a reminder that you can't take money for your vote.
So you're saying that if you, Linda Collins Smith, were paid, by somebody to vote a certain way, okay, that's done. That's obviously black and white. That's wrong. That's illegal. You're saying if an attorney, though, has a client with his law practice that is paying him to go down there to sponsor a piece of legislation or something like that, that is somehow legal, that right now that can happen and there's no consequences?
No, I don't think it's legal personally.
Okay.
And that's the point.
Okay.
And that's why this bill, I did this ethics bill, and, also talked to our ethics director, and it's not written. This is like that little piece that's not written into our ethics law. But do I think that clearly it's against the law to take money for a vote? Yes, I do. I think we have clear examples of that with legislators who've been in trouble.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
this ethics bill is black and white, and why any legislator wouldn't vote for it, I can't understand.
So what happened? What was the vote? What ended up happening with this bill to try to clarify that, hey, this is illegal? If you're an attorney and you're a legislator, you can't go down there and basically do your client's bidding. What ended up happening with this thing? Did it get it to the floor of the Senate? I see the Senate voted on it 2 times, so I'm assuming it didn't make it out of the Senate.
That's right. It was voted. Actually, the bill was there was amendment on the bill, of course, and the bill. I think what happened is I had to put the body. If my memory was, I had to put. It was that I had to actually put the body in the bill, and that I think it was filed as a shell bill, if I remember, that I had to put the body in the bill. So there was an amendment, and I did get the bill amended. And then when I went back to the bill to pass it, to present the bill, it was fought hard, especially by 2 senators, and especially by Senator Hutchinson did not want it.
Yeah, he's an attorney.
Very hard.
Dude's an attorney. I mean, he's the chair of the judiciary, and he himself is an attorney. So there you go.
And Senator Garner didn't want it and made it clear that he wasn't a practicing attorney.
But he's still an
but
attorney.
He didn't want that, which was Senator Hutchinson fought hard too, and it was like, that's correct, but you guys have to understand there's a problem with taking money for a vote and so I have a problem with that myself. I'll just have to tell you that. If I can't take money, I think that's when you recuse that client.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
really
I think that, to me, is very clear. And so I think that they need to consider that. I think that this should have passed, and I don't think anyone should have voted against this bill just because it wasn't written there. I think it was a good bill to clean up our ethics, a gap in our ethics. And it was a reminder to them, but to me personally, I think it would have been a good reminder to them. There should be no appearance, to me, with an attorney that I think they should always be above board. They may tell me they don't think they're doing anything wrong, but I think an attorney shouldn't take any money for my client to go down and pass that bill.
I'm so glad we're having this. I'm really glad we're having this conversation. We're talking with Senator Linda Collins-Smith. I mean, that's the kind of deep government reform that she's attempting to do, and that's the kind of stuff that, when it directly is going to affect politicians potentially, they fight back. And so I'm sorry that it turned out the way it does. I think you even running the bill, though, exposes the senators that, you just mentioned. I want real quick, we only have like 3 minutes left, and I want to talk about this other bill that you did, Senate Bill 727, concerning the civil forfeiture of assets involved in certain criminal offenses. Talk about that, because that is a huge conservative movement to say, hey, maybe we need to reform our civil asset forfeiture when no one's committed a crime. Talk about that.
Okay. We really have in our country, and we know we don't have the perfect sets of circumstances, but we have the best country when it comes to our laws in America and justice. We really believe we have the best. But, I believe in innocence until proven guilty. We all do. But is that true? Because when you could actually lose your asset, that civil asset forfeiture. And when I explained on the Senate floor how that can happen, it became very clear, because it could happen to anyone. And I used an example of a young man getting cash to go across the country after he gets out of college. And he's got a job, but he's got to go across country, so he takes cash. He doesn't have his checking account set up. So I use this little example of your son leaving home for the first time, and he doesn't have an account, and he gets stopped with no account. He gets stopped, and he's got cash, and someone thinks he's a drug person. It's drug money, and they take his money. Now he has no money. Now he has to prove and hire an attorney, but yet he has no money. And he's got to go hire an attorney. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they can take money because they think he's a drug runner. And
but they don't know. They don't have any proof of that.
That's right. And there's no proof. And now he's going to have to hire an attorney to get his cash back. So this is the short version, because you only have a few minutes. But I want to say this. Making sure that our officers and our prosecutors know. I'm not against. They need to do their jobs. There are obviously criminals out there and people that do the wrong things, and there are drug runners. We know that. But I want to say this. There is a better way to fund our police department, our prosecuting department. There is a better way. It's our job to make sure that we handle the budget to make sure they are funded. But I believe innocence until proven guilty, and that we take care to make sure. And there's an example I'm going to use in Arkansas specific, and that case that I gave the day in the chamber. Someone texted the members in the chamber and told them that the money was given back, and it wasn't. It was about approximately $20,000.
Yeah, and it wasn't given back, was it? It wasn't.
It was not, but they said it was.
I know. Somebody gets a text, and then they come down. They say, "I've just been informed that money was returned, so this isn't a problem. Your bill did fail. Only 13 yes votes, 12 no's, 9 non-voted, 1 voted present. That was Trent Gardner.
It was not given back, and it was literally the judge, the prosecutor realized they didn't have enough evidence to prove that. And what happened is when that text was sent, somebody that did not want that bill to pass that sent that out, I can tell you that money was not given back. The prosecutor in that Arkansas case said, look, we need to drop this. And the judge said, nope. The judge then didn't let it be dropped, and they kept the man's money.
$20,000. He was going to buy a car. And that's just ridiculous.
And if he was when they should have proved that he did something wrong.
I agree. It's a great conservative reform effort. Again, it failed as well. Senator Linda Collins-Smith, we're completely out of time. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you for all you do. Thanks, Paul.
All righty. Folks, we got to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.